All right, we are connected. Hi. If you're already listening to this as a podcast, please listen to it on Spreaker. That's the link above, or you can just go to Spreaker and look up the show name, and you'll be able to find me. Thank you. All right. And that's it right there. What is that one? Oh, yeah. Hi, this is Daniel with SemperFryLLC.com, home of awesome hot sauce. I'm inviting you to help me celebrate my daughter's 10th birthday with code BDayGirl for 10% off from now until her birthday on July 2nd. You can use it at SemperFry, SemperFry, LLC.com. Thank you. All right. And that's that code right there. You copied it? All right, cool. All right. So there's a couple different things that we're going to go over today. One of them is going to be probably a really decent portion of Ken Wheeler's video where he discusses some interesting things about the Book of Books. And, I've been going on saying, because of the Edda, that it's almost a superfluous character in the first place because there was no original sin to have to come and do whatever that is to, it just, I get stuck on the whole idea is that other people aren't able to solve your problems. And if they do, that's a really weird system. So anyway, we'll get into that. But there's more to it that he discussed. And I don't even go that far with it, but I also don't read ancient Greek. So it's going to be pretty interesting. And there's a little piece of Ammon Hillman's video too, where he's interacting in the live stream in the comments with Ken. So we're going to look at that too. Ammon's a little eccentric, but it doesn't mean he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a philologist. He knows his stuff about ancient Greek. And people who try to argue anything besides source documents are just doing it because of beliefs rather than facts. So we're going to get into that. The psyop of religion, however, by itself, you should find that suspicious that if God created all of us, that we all, and those of us who have that attachment, we have that sense of a benevolent creator. We have empathy, compassion, love, the inner drive to do good and to end injustice around us, prevent it, make everybody who is worthy of, intervention, free from tyranny and abuse. That means, guess what? You have everything that you need right here. You don't need to wait for someone else to fix it. And that's not just somewhat lazy, but it's like shirking or shrugging your responsibilities and expecting mom and dad or someone to come in and solve the problem for you. I don't think that's how an intelligent design would be arranged. And for people who say, God lets all of this stuff happen. If there was a God, why does all this bad stuff happen? Well, that's where you have to look at yourself. You have to look at all the other people out here who recognize that there is bad stuff happening and they're not doing anything about it. All collectively together are all God's soldiers. That's how that works. He works through you. And if you choose not to do something, then that's as far as he can go. So we'll get into all of that and more. But guess what? Instagram's back. Boom. And what is degraded? Which one is degraded here? Hold on. Something happened again. I don't know what's up with Kick. Oh, I know. I bet you I didn't set the... Let me take a look at the settings here. I bet I didn't change the output. It says 12,000 kilobytes per second rather than 8. And that's how weak and frail Kick is. You go beyond 8 and it doesn't pop up. So noted. We just won't be on Kick again. Next time I'll get it all together. I was recording something else at a higher rate and higher resolution altogether. And I guess that was that one thing. I went through and looked at all the stuff, and that was the one thing, the bit rate I didn't change back. Oh well. Oops. Grabbed the wrong thing. There we go. Goon Patrol. You know the game. We used to have this game at our restaurant. My parents used to own an Italian restaurant in upstate New York. And they had, for a while, they had arcade games in the sectioned off part of the dining room area. And we had Moon Patrol. We had Punch Out. We had a couple of little weird games, Asteroids, I think. We had the older games, even for that time period. But yeah, Moon Patrol is one of them. All right. So it's been a while since I've been on this, but there were a few things I wanted to share previously. This is a really interesting story. It says tourists found a 19th century stagecoach high in a Utah canyon, later revealing bags of gold coins tied to a lost railroad payroll. Evidence suggests it was sabotaged by bandits before a flash flood carried it into the canyon, where it stayed hidden for over 100 years. Look at that. Gray satchels. There it is right there. Investigators concluded the coach had likely been targeted by bandits who sabotaged it before a flash flood. Now, whether it's AI slop or not, I don't know. But it's coming from this source, which provides all kinds of historical events. So we can double check that. Oh shit, my dog's outside. All right, well, hold on. I'll get the Ken Wheeler one kicked off here, and then I have to bring my animal inside. So Hillman versus academia, truth versus consensus. All very good points being made here. Oops, I guess I already. Nope, there it is. Let's go ahead and get this kicked off, and I'll be back in just a moment.
Hello. I had somebody tell me that when I whistle when I come into the video, it was very disturbing. It's the first time someone said that. I thought maybe you could think that whistling was disturbing. Strange. Doesn't matter what you do, someone's always upset about it. That's just the nature of social media. How you doing? I I never sent an email or had a phone call with Amon Hillman. There was a bunch of people on live stream last night that went shoop, came into my live stream. It was like, oh my God, I was talking about you in this video. He was calling you like a beautiful baldy or something like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's nice. By the way, I'll be at the same conference as him. I was give a lecture and whatever else. It's in January down in Dallas, Texas, at this meeting hall. I forget the name. It's way too far off in the future. It's over a half a year away. I can't plan stuff out that far in the future. I already agreed to show up there. By the way, about 30% of this video is about Hillman, but the rest of it is about the Bible, which I've said a million times, I don't care about the Bible. I'm sorry, but I can't waste my life, because time is valuable, on stuff that I just, for a fact, know is just absolute rubbish. It's that great English word that Americans don't use. Rubbish. Hillman is right. I mean, the oldest Bible that's dated to, I think, about 350 AD. It's the Sinaiticus, sort of the Sinai Bible. It is in what language? It's in Greek. They'll say, well, the language of Jesus. And of course, that guy never existed. He was created whole cloth by the first and second order of Nicaea. I mean, that's 100% undeniable. The Catholic Church, whatever you think about the Catholic Church, I couldn't care less. They know. He was created whole cloth. And of course, the oldest Bible, well, the New Testament.
So think of the implications of that. I don't think you have to think too hard. If billions of Christians are waiting for the second coming of someone that, if he was created out of whole cloth, or if he was somebody who was parsed together by attributes of multiple people who were a nuisance to the empire, and they bundled them all up. There's a Greek influence in there too, because he has similarities to Prometheus and a bunch of other people. And they made a religion based around there can be only one Highlander, which took the power away from all of us as we handed it over out of obedience and to not be a heretic or sacrilegious, out of fear of eternal retribution. And think about how that works so well for this Saturn cult of child killers who allow you to impair yourself and stand there and take all of their abuse, thinking that they deserve to do what they do because of how they wrote their importance into these texts. But also, isn't it great if your enemy can psychologically impair your ability to fight back?
Testament anyway. The Sinaiticus, you could go look that up, or the Sinai Bible. It never ever mentions any sort of miraculous resurrection stuff. Pope Leo X, I believe, and a couple other popes, they know that this was just introduced, just this fantastical rubbish was introduced into the Bible much, much later. So all of this fantastical stuff that basically 99.9% of Christianity is based around, it doesn't...
Now, he's saying it created out of whole cloth, and I would say there's probably a deeper meaning. There's probably more to it than that. But all of the way that they've manipulated the story in his story is to the detriment of his followers, of his devotees, making us easy targets and the sacrificial class of this Saturn cult. And that's where we have to really examine deeply. I mean, just thinking about it on the logical sense, objectively, taking away any conditioning and programming we've had throughout our childhood and lifetime. It's the perfect scheme for someone who wants to dominate and subjugate you.
Exist in the oldest Bible, the Sinaiticus. It doesn't. It doesn't exist in the second oldest one, and I forget the name of it, but it was given to England, and it's somewhere in their archives back in the 15th century or something, and it's dated to the 6th century CE. And this idea that Constantine was converted to Christianity is completely ludicrous. It's basically what every Christian thinks. Christianity didn't even exist at the time of Emperor Constantine. So this religion was created whole cloth. But getting back on to Amon Hillman, actually he made a statement in his live stream. He was actually talking about me.
See, now that to me contradicts a little bit of what they call the early Christians and what they then polemically called the Gnostics, and grouped a bunch of different ideas from various people who had very differing beliefs and practices into one label. I am to understand that that was in like 250, which would have been prior to maybe Christianity as whatever it, materialized and became substance in what we would call the canonical form. May not have formed until that later time, but what about all these other people? Unless their texts are dated incorrectly, I don't know.
I made a video about him like a year ago, and people wanted me to actually go over some of the stuff that he translated. And I said, I don't know the guy. I've never emailed him. I've still never emailed him. Never had a phone call with the guy. I said, just based upon the facts, he's correct. What he said, boom, 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 boom. He actually said in his live stream, he said, he was commenting on me. I just said nonchalantly that, Hillman's right. I didn't say it nonchalantly. I just went over the passages that were the biggest bone of contention against Hillman. And I said, no, Hillman is right. And Hillman himself said, it's right because the Greek is right. I'm quoting him now. I'm actually going to read some stuff they've said about Hillman online, and the exact same stuff that's said about me regarding Pali. And it's hyperbolic, it's nonsensical, it's ridiculous. It's the exact same thing, except a totally different language. Of course, people say that about me in Greek, but I've spent decades debating stuff in the ancient Pali. And there's a reason for this, and I like to go over some of the stuff on, the complete and total fable that is the Bible. But Hillman is right.
With a very dark and malicious intent behind it. And like I was saying before, the Old Testament is a grimoire. And even they couldn't write a decent human being for any of their characters. And they stole a lot of the attributes from that which they had access to when Ptolemy taught them how to read and write in Greek, gave them a Greek education and this cult of child killers, this moon cult, Saturn cult, whatever you want to call it, the serpent cult. They were envious. They had nothing to show for any of their existence because all they do is abuse and prey upon others, living off of other people's efforts. That they had to manufacture themselves a history and do one-upmanship on the Greeks. And that's what they did in the Hellenistic period, and that's where the Old Testament / Tanakh comes from.
It's the original is Greek. It's not Hebrew. There is a mountain of evidence for this fact. By the way, if you put, and I've said this many times in live stream, if you took 1,000 Greeks and 1,000 Israelis and you put them in a big room and you mixed them around really good, you can't tell the difference. They're the same people. They're the same people. I don't know how many thousands of years ago they split apart, but they're the same people. So the Bible, the Septuagint, and Hillman is right, Septuagint, the Greek, he's right. This idea that, well, Jesus spoke Aramaic, I was like, well, number one, that person was created whole cloth by the first and second order of Nicaea. Talking about Aramaic, the Bible, the New Testament, the oldest one from roughly 350 A.D., hundreds of years after the assumed date of this fictional person. It was in Greek. It's not in Aramaic. It's not. I mean, they discovered that it was found in St. Catherine's Monastery in Sinai. That's why it's called the Sinaiticus, or the Sinai Bible. It's in Greek, Koine Greek. Yeah, it's not in Aramaic. It's not in Hebrew. The Torah is a much, 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 much later invention. There are countless books written about this fact. Hebrew is not that old. The same thing exists, and I'm very familiar with this, the idea of Sanskrit. Basically, 99% of people in India think, well, Sanskrit's countless thousands of years old. It's not. It's a fable, it's a fantasy, it's science fiction. All the oldest texts in India are in Brahmi Prakrit. Pali is a Prakrit. Brahmi is Prakrit. The Pillar Edicts and the Rock Edicts.
The Gothic Aryan language.
and King Ashok are in Brahmi Prakrit. There is the oldest evidence for Sanskrit is not until the 3rd century CE, which is 800 years almost after the oldest text found in India of Emperor Ashok, and also too the funerary casket carving containing the ashes of Gautama Sakyamuni, which means Scythian sage in ancient Pali, been translated.
Put a note in that. It means Scythian sage. Whose people again? Ours? Yeah.
Ancient Pali now for 26 years. It's in Pali. There is no evidence of Sanskrit. None. So we get the same garbage that Hebrew is super ancient. It's not. And it's the same garbage about ancient India. You know, Sanskrit's thousands of years old. It's like, if that were true...
Oh, and how could they get that wrong? Well, because they control all the levers of power in your history, science, medical science, and so on.
Then the king's language that he ordered carved, the pillar edicts and the rock edicts, would have been in Sanskrit. They ain't. They're in Brahmi Prakrit. It's the exact same thing, by the way. And here's some stuff that people have said about Amon Hillman. I'm going to point out to you why it's total garbage. You know, they employ fallacies, bandwagon fallacies, and peer review, which is total nonsense. Peer review is one dog sniffing another dog in front of him, dirty chocolate starfish, and that dog is sniffing the dirty chocolate starfish in front of him. So you got a bunch of fools that are agreeing with. That's what a peer review is. Like, these people don't even know what the word peer review means. This is what and all this stuff is on Reddit, and Reddit is where people get together and they carp. I don't know if you know what carping means, or, you know, like a carp, where you take it out, pull it out of the water, it just moves its mouth. It doesn't really say anything. Wow.
Bullhead do that too, but sometimes they make a wah, 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 wah noise. It's kind of unsettling.
Blah, 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 blah. It's called carping. This is what... Whoops, I knocked my glasses off. I'll edit that out of this video.
No, you won't.
This is what somebody said about Hillman. Said, I've never heard of Dr. Hillman. You've already got some great responses here. I'll just note that the reason there's not a single other scholar in all of biblical studies, atheist or Christian, seems to hold any of these positions of his. You effectively have to believe Dr. Hillman is the first and only actual biblical scholar in 2,000 years to grasp this
He's
stuff.
not a biblical scholar. He's just reading the Greek. That's it. That's it. If you're reading from the source material, how is it that you're wrong? This is where all other claims or understandings, translations are all supposed to come from, but they don't. They don't. They're manipulated to give you a vision of history, religion, and existence in a way that's really easy for them to minimize your power, your value, and subjugate you under a control mechanism that you just have to assume is representative of the good, because that's what they continue to shove down your throats, like the organized religions. I don't want to knock Christianity around too much because, you know, that's going to upset a lot of people, and it's also... I still think that there's something there, but it could be a conglomerate or a collection of people that they made into one and then told you cannot be this one. There can only be one Highlander. So if you ever want salvation, if you ever want anything, all these concepts that they've made you believe are even a thing that are basically destroyed from reading the British Edda and finding out who these real people were, how that they were terrestrial, they were rational human beings in a time period, and how that was manipulated and inverted when telling the Old Testament and bastardized. Oh, even in the Greek, when they start giving Zeus terrible attributes and splitting... Zeus would be Thor, splitting Zeus into two parts, making one of them Prometheus, and then torturing him. In the same fashion, the torturing of Jesus, and even with the wound in the side, all very, very symbolic.
There's a reason behind all this stuff, the same stuff I've encountered as a non-sectarian scholar of the original text. Here's another guy, another goof.
If they can't beat you in life, they beat you in the written word, and it becomes the spell that they then cast over generations who have lost touch with the roots of their histories.
On Reddit. Isn't that a shred of historical evidence that every single scholar in the field of New Testament studies would disagree with him? Nothing in the scholarly consensus, there's a magic word, consensus, everybody's orifice should pucker when they hear the word consensus. That's a bandwagon fallacy, by the way. Has any hint of anything this Hillman guy is talking about? And he sounds like a liar. These people have no proof, no facts, no logic, no evidences for anything. It's the same stuff I've been encountering for decades, okay?
See, they don't feel like they need to source, and they don't feel like they need to corroborate anything that they say because they're relying on the fact that everybody else has had this concept beaten into them so deeply, embedded in them so it becomes part of their identity, that the mere suggestion that that might be faulty data is enough to already have people won over on their side, to where all they have to then do is criticize the person who's a messenger telling you that there's discrepancies. The simple fact that one would bring that up is enough to rally the mob against them, regardless of what type of evidence there is to support these criticisms.
By the way, my professors in college said I was a heaven-sent prodigy on learning languages. And I am. Not that it ever paid off for me. I know 7 languages. I'm a prodigy at it. I can see amazing stuff other people can't see. It sounds like
Mike Patton can sing in like 7 different languages too.
I'm boasting, but I'm really not. It's just... Here's another guy. Dr. Hillman has miraculously discovered the true nature of Christianity that has apparently eluded all others for the past 2,000 years. Sure. Yeah, right. Well, he has. The reason why he's not embroiled in consensus and peer review, he's just looking at the Greek, what the Greek is, how it is by itself. Let's just look.
Conformists who want to continue to get grants, who don't want to be booted out of their profession, will all sing the same tune. Those outside, and the few and rare ones who outside of that field, or booted out of that field, who have the skills to read the ancient languages and translate them correctly, like Elie Wiesel, like Ammon Hillman, like Ken Wheeler. Those outliers aren't controlled by anything. Nobody's going to rug pull their finances away from them, and therefore they're a danger to the system.
Look at what the texts actually say. I've done the same thing in Pali. We're talking about non-sectarian scholars. Now here's the same thing with so-called Buddhism, which is a term that didn't exist until the 16th century, okay? The way the Western world got information about Buddhism is English and German scholars, academicians, they went to see non-Buddhists in Ceylon, Burma, mostly Ceylon, i.e. Sri Lanka, and talked to them. Those yellow-robed guys running around Southeast Asia, they're not actually Buddhists. They're soul-denying Theravadins, which used to be called a long time ago Sarwastivadins, which is basically a fancy way of saying materialists. About what original Buddhism says.
And the Dalai Lama likes to tongue-kiss boys.
They got lies and nonsense, and they spread that stuff to the Western world. That's the truth of what happened. Brilliant ancient Pali translator Caroline Augustus Foley Reese Davis, she said all these people that we were told what Buddhism is, they're liars. She looked at the text and what the texts actually say. She said they're wrong. Same thing with George Grimm, Grimm. He wrote The Doctrine of the Buddha. I don't need her translations, and I don't need George Grimm. I read the original ancient texts, which are dated to the 4th century BC.
That's the real peer review, right? What did the people say in the time frame that we're discussing? Who recorded it and what does it actually say? Not some mystic interpretation, not some half-cocked, watered down translation that's translated from a translation and then translated from that translation, carrying on all the same, mistakes or deliberate deceptions to frame your view of it. No, go to the source. What does the source say? So therefore, what's all this other tangential stuff that they just created? Well, what's the basis of that? Really, really wanting it to be so? And they're going to argue really, really wanting it to be so with the source material. Okay, sure.
Very old, actually 450 BC, because the Panch Nicaea, 5 Nicaeas, the original texts are mentioned on a pillar edict of King Ashok. Very, very ancient. They're pre-sectarian corpus. Yeah. So I had to deal with the same stuff that they're going after Alman Hillman about. Alman Hillman is right. He's looking at the text, what they say, what they don't say. And he is right. What peer review did Nikola Tesla or Plato or Pythagoras or Plotinus or Iamblichus or Damasius or Syrianus or Philoponus? Who peer reviewed their stuff? The answer is nobody did. It's either factual, logical, rational, reasonable, or it's not. Actually, people still today, go after Tesla. It's like, you mean the guy that had countless inventions and knew 1,000,000 times more than you know, and you're sitting here like dissing Tesla? It's like, what? You don't know anything. They still go after him. Well, today we have relativity. It's more advanced insight into nature. Quantum mechanics, Tesla. There's nothing, I could go about this forever. But this is the same sort of online and forum room carping that you actually see. Nobody peer-reviewed the greats, the people that gave you rational, logical conclusions about things the way they are. This truth by consensus nonsense. Consensus is a fallacy. Peer review is by definition evil. It's a bunch of people agreeing with each other. Will you peer review my new book? I peer reviewed your last book and said how great it was. Will you peer review my book? Yeah. They pat each other on the back. They live in the same building, usually on the same floor of academia. Hey, I peer reviewed 5 papers last week. Will you peer review some of my... Yeah, and they just agree with each other. The worst that they'll actually do against one another, I think you should make this correction because it's a little bit wrong. I think it should be worded this way. And that's as truth-centric as they get, which means not at all. Well, the issue is that currently we're in an extremely corrupt epoch. Christianity and all these creationistic belief systems are a dung heap upon Greek, Egyptian, and Chaldean principles of divine union, transcendence, theurgy.
Creation mythos. That's an interesting way of categorizing them as well. Because everybody claiming that there was a beginning that they're the authorities on can steer you to the end that they want as well through their eschatological extremism and accelerationism.
Original Buddhism, and the term Buddhism is not original at all. It came from the 16th century. He actually called the Brahmayana, Samyutta K 5.4, which means path to the absolute. He also was called Buddhasasana, the doctrine of the Buddha. It's buried under a dung heap of morality and soul-denying, materialistic nihilism. All this stuff is unoriginal. Quotes from the legendary Greek poet Epidemides of the 6th or 7th century BC are applied to the lips of Jesus Christ in the New Testament. A bunch of passages from the Ode to Jupiter, circa 150.
See what I mean? And why would that be a thing? Because the freaking oy veys were in control of that as well. Who do you think the councils were? They were the oys that decided they were going to run a new religion and a new psyop on the freaking people in agreement and in coordination with the Roman assholes. And it goes right back to the whole Hellenistic period again. What did they have access to? Well, the whole freaking huge library full of information of histories of our ancestors and heroes and things of that nature, and grabbed all that. Then they started poisoning and corrupting and bastardizing, Greek histories into the point that they actually were myths rather than retellings or histories. They poison everything that they touch, but they pose as if that thing is what still it embodies, right? It's just the shell, just like the Fabian thing. You still see the sheep on the outside, but that's not what's working its limbs. The carcass is just laid atop of it. And that is what America is. That it's not the constitutional republic. It is a corporatocracy. They just didn't tell anybody. Nobody is to believe. Nobody is to know that they actually have no rights and they're considered property and prisoners. Not good for keeping the peace and keeping everybody docile. So, of course, you would do everything you can to suppress their minds, especially if you are aware that they have great internal abilities because of who their creator is and what they are. You would have to impair them. You would have to make sure that they don't snap out of the spell and realize that they've been had. And then when the digital fencing and digital grid comes down, their worries will, for the most part, be over because technology will handle all the policing. Whoops. What the fuck?
BCE, which, by the way, is nearly 500 years earlier than the oldest recorded New Testament, the Sinaiticus. Yeah, as I will point out. These are actually put into the New Testament. This new religion, Constantine was not converted to Christianity. He was responsible for creating it. First Council of Nicaea, the Second Council of Nicaea. Pope Leo X called Christ a fable. This is dated to 1521.
It's because he was a blasphemous heretic. Now, there's an awful lot of bad popes out there for sure. Man versus God and his manipulation of the concept of God to control the people. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of a deviation there between natural law, God, and the people, but what the popes did took it to a different level. And those who do tell the truth, they just, who's going to tell the story of that? They're going to tell it in a negative way. They're going to denounce those people who spoke out against the lies that the organized, controlling religion have been telling everybody.
And instructed Eusebius to organize a compilation of uniform collections of new writings developed from primary aspects of the religious text submitted at the council. His instructions were, search ye, this is a historical fact. You can't be a truth-seeking person, and the people in these belief systems are not truth seekers. They don't care about truth, facts, logic, wisdom, and evidences. They're attached to truth, to falsehoods and beliefs. They don't care about facts. Constantine said, search ye these books, and whatever is good in them retain, but whatever is evil, that cast away.
And who's making those interpretations and determinations? First off, who are these people? Are they able to even read original text? Or are they just drafting their own? Are they fabricating their own stories? Something easy to manipulate people with? And then what of all the things they call apocryphas? The stories of Jesus and others, and what that's supposed to do to awaken who you truly are inside, which is something that they can't have you know. Because if it was known that you weren't waiting for one guy and that all of us have that ability to be our own saviors, because that is what we're supposed to be. It's soldiers of God. God doesn't intervene. God doesn't talk to anybody. But you feel the connection, and you know there's a benevolent creator, just like Thor did when he was a monotheist and venerator of the sun. It's not that it's not a real God. Of course it is. But what they've taught us is they've harnessed that power and that strength and our goodness against ourselves to make us humble when we should be the ones on the front line, policing and defending and being the guardians of this realm, as was intended. Instead, we take a backseat and let people who have assumed roles, positions, and labels as the authorities and the arbiters of all things. And we just follow. We're the leaders doing the following. And the way they pay us back for that isn't through gratitude or appreciation or phew, we got them fooled. No. They continue to hammer down with the abuses, the poisonings, the mistreatment, the murders. That's what we get for compliance. So if anybody thinks it's going to get different because you lose more of your freedoms and you think that you can just continue to comply, they don't favor you because of that. And why would you need their approval in the first place? They're the ones in the wrong. And it's up to us to understand who we are, what our purpose is here, and right the ship.
And good in one book, unite ye that which is good in another book, and whatsoever is brought together shall be called the book of books, and it shall be the doctrine of my people, which I will recommend unto all nations. And that there shall be no more conflict for the sake of religions. This is God's book of Esra. The Second Council of Nicaea, circa 786 CE, denounced the First Council, which, by the way, created Christianity whole cloth. Denounced the First Council of Nicaea as a, quote, synod of fools and madmen, and they sought to annul...
Sounds like Jews to me.
...the creation of a collection of the First Council, which was the creation of Christianity. Decisions passed by men with troubled brains. So the Second Council of Nicaea said that the First Council of Nicaea, which created Christianity whole cloth, was a conclave of men with troubled brains. By the way, this also gets back to the importance of the Sinaiticus, the oldest copy of the New Testament. The Church claims the resurrection is a fundamental argument, which is no duh for Christian belief, yet no supernatural appearance of a resurrected Jesus is recorded in any of the earliest Gospels of Mark available. Not in the oldest New Testament, not in the second oldest New Testament, not even in the third oldest New Testament, which I think is dated to the it's dated to like the 7th or 8th century CE. The resurrection and ascension is a sine qua non, which means without which there is nothing. You know, you can't have Christianity without the principle of resurrection, but the three oldest New Testaments, there's no such thing mentioned. You know, this holy birth of Mary, you know, the miracle of Mary's birth, the resurrection. This fantastical rubbish is not in the in the three oldest New Testaments. It's not there. This isn't my opinion or feeling. It's a fact. Catholic Encyclopedia, Farley, 1792. Conferred way attributed to Paul. If Christ has not been raised, your faith is in vain. 1 Corinthians 5:17. The resurrection verse today and the Gospel of Mark are universally acknowledged by people.
Those concepts were lifted from other places and then weaponized as well, manipulated. But certainly if they're not in the original? And why did it take over 100 or whatever, however many years, or maybe more, for somebody to even mention somebody who allegedly was as important as we're supposed to think he was?
Who know what's going on and are truth seekers as forgeries. And the church agrees, saying that the conclusions of Mark admittedly are not genuine. Almost entirely sections of later compilation. Well, of course that's the case. The oldest New Testament, i.e. the Sinaiticus, is 4th century, or 350 years after the passing of this imaginary person, Jesus Christ. Sorry. All the stuff that they're saying about Dr. Hillman's the same stuff they said about me, but I have the facts, I have the citations, I have the logic. You have to stand on the facts and the logic. What does the Greek say? What does the ancient Pali say? Different language, different subset of metaphysics. Yep, completely different. One is organized religion, and the other one is a liberation ontology based in wisdom. This truth by consensus stuff is a bandwagon fallacy. All these people online, which it's the same stuff they said about me for decades. I never heard of this guy. He sounds like a fraud. I mean, how come nobody else agrees with him? Who peer-reviewed his stuff? Well, who peer-reviewed Tesla and Plato and Pythagoras and Plotinus? The answer is nobody did. It's logical, rational, and abundantly clear, and it stands on its own. It doesn't require a bunch of people like, well, I got 4 billion people that believe in this nonsense belief system. It's like, well, that...
Same as mob mentality, same as democracy. Well, as long as enough people believe it, then it must be true. Does that change whether or not something's right or wrong or true or false? Have you looked around and seen what the majority of people actually believe? And would you trust their judgment?
That doesn't mean anything. That's a bandwagon fallacy. That's what peer review is. I mean, you got a bunch of people with paperwork that are all agreeing with each other. They actually think that that is the landmark and proof of truth and logic, and it's not. Of course it's not. Truth by consensus.
And maybe in a society that wasn't run by a bunch of, vampiric child-killing demons, or at least controlled by them and influenced by them to get compliance and confirmation to what they want the narrative to be, other people would come to these conclusions on their own, but they're not free enough in their own thought process to do so. There's too many built-in barriers to even considering different information once this foundation has been embedded into them with the threats and the fear of uncertainty that comes along with challenging these things. So you're always going to get a pushback. There isn't going to be a consensus in the positive. Because if anything was of use, it's like they say, nothing true is ever popular and nothing popular is ever true. In the state that we're in, where we have a very malicious control arm, overarching control over all of the things that influence our perception and perspective.
Greek is the original Bible, not Hebrew, which...
Going back to what I said about the Hellenistic period as well, not just the New Testament, but the Old too.
Which is much, much later. This exact same thing exists in ancient India. This idea that Sanskrit is super, super old. It's not. Sanskrit is much more refined, much more polished. Languages get more refined and polished over time. They get less refined and less polished the further back you go in time.
Just think of how much bullshit you've heard, even in like the fringe community. This is called Contact in a Desert on my shirt. The ufology. There's this one called channel called Zohar Stargate, which is like the freaking Kabbalah. It's all embedded in there. Like the whole demon thing, the alien thing, these are all ways of telling and trying to confirm through a fraudulent depiction of histories and quote unquote evidence that the Kabbalists are correct. It's really obvious when you start to see it. And I remember, because it's in my head from watching these, probably even Ancient Aliens and other things on like the Science and Discovery channels, they always make this big deal about Hebrew and the ancient Hebrew language and how it's such a powerful. It's the language of magic. Ooh, that's a little bit different, right? And they show you the characters on the screen of what their letters are, like these are very advanced. It's just the narration. It's all it is. It's the music behind it. It's the narration. Just like if you're watching Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, there's very emotional, elements to the big chunk of the final portion of that movie. Indiana, let it go. And then all their other little things, it's like, but you forget that the whole time they make the National Socialists these asshole bad guys. And every Spielberg movie, you have Harrison Ford saying Nazis. I hate Nazis. Right? It's all poison. It's all inversion. It's all thought manipulation and perception manipulation.
Well, Prakrit, Pali and Brahmi are both Prakrit, and those are the only languages found in ancient India. You don't see Sanskrit until the 3rd century CE, nearly 700 years after Pali, or Brahmi Prakrit. Yeah. Sanskrit's a lot more refined. It's ridiculous. If Sanskrit were actually that old, you'd find it somewhere in ancient India. It don't exist. This idea that Hebrew is ancient is ridiculous. Hillman is correct.
And the fact that they said Scythian sage, and what we know about the British Edda and the migration of the Gothic Aryan people after their conquest of the serpent cult and the building of the Sumerian civilization, Babylonian, blah, blah, blah. And then the Assyrians come and screw up a bunch of crap. And on their way to the Indus Valley to meet up with people who had already settled there of their own, some stop in Persia, create a massive civilization there. And then, in addition, the Indus Valley flourishes for quite a long time. And we talked about the Aryan origins of the alphabet, another Waddell book that helps you understand the other two, the makers of Civilization and Race and History, and the British Edda. All this that we've been discussing on this channel, this corroborates simply with the fact that it was a language of said Gothic Aryan people in the oldest texts in India. And the fact that one of these terms means Scythian sage, well, that goes a long way too, doesn't it?
Septuagint, it's Greek. Gotta look at the Greek. You read it as it is. You don't interpret it through the rose-colored glasses of a belief system. What does the original say? I myself could not care less about the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament. Life is too short. I am not going to dedicate any percentage of my life to studying rubbish. I'm not going to do it.
That would be like us reading a book about how bad and evil and rotten, the National Socialists were. And of course, they wouldn't call them that. But once you already know that that's not accurate and that it's a demonic Saturn cult lie, then why would you want to continue reading books about how they lie and manipulate your minds to believe something that simply isn't true, and it's a complete inversion, and it deflects away from what their crimes were in that same time period as the Bolsheviks? Why would you subject yourself to that? Why would you entertain that? Well, same reason here why he wouldn't cram that book into his head. And I've said this myself. I've attempted to read the Old Testament quite a few times, and I couldn't stomach it. There's something that deep within me, I have an uncomfortable repulsion to it. And when I do read portions of it, I'm just always, it's just confirmation again that these people aren't decent. This isn't God. I don't know who the hell they are referring to, but it sure as hell isn't a benevolent creator. There wouldn't be these interactions. They're taking people who have been deified through appreciation and veneration of heroic, true life individuals, and then they changed them and made them Semitic, but they were Greek in nature, or they were Gothic Aryan in nature in their histories that were at Alexandria that they stole from. And even then, they still decided to manipulate the details of those people. Couldn't leave it alone. They had to put their attributes into those people, and as a result, all of them were not good people. So it's just, why would I think that these were God's chosen? Why would I think that these were God's people? Why would I think that there was a reason for me to learn about these people? Because they're not decent. There's better, more decent people, way better and more decent people in my own family. I'm not going to deify anybody, but I would rather venerate and respect those heroes, the ones I know personally, than I would some assholes that they told me were important in a time frame that's still a little blurry and whose fantastical attributes can't possibly be accurate.
Sit there, debate back and forth, like who's correct, This rubbish is not rubbish. Like, no, that rubbish is rubbish. I'm not interested in that. I'm sorry, I don't love Greek. Don't care about Greek and its relationship to the Old Testament, the New Testament, Galen, the Sinaitica, the oldest New Testament. Don't care about it regarding any of these religions.
See, that's the problem, though, because if he did care, like the way Ammon does, and this is why he respects Ammon, and that's why they talk, he says he doesn't care. He doesn't want to get involved in that. I understand not wanting to get into the manipulation and the retellings and the rewritings and the folklore around that as to why that's the be-all and end-all. But if you do have the original source Greek, I think that's extremely important to convey, as Ammon does, the truth of the matter that nobody can read, so they don't read. Even though it's right there, nobody has those skills, barely. And if you're just learning it, you're bound to make mistakes as well, and you're probably more susceptible to other people telling you what it means until you get a better handle on it and become like an expert on those languages. So being that he has that ability, it would be a great benefit to others who are trapped in the spell of religion to explain to them what it actually means, as does Ammon. But having more than one voice out there, that helps the people understand that there's something there, as Dr. Glidden says. There's something to it. There's something that's been manipulated. There's something fishy going on. That's kind of a pun when you come to the whole fish thing in the Bible, but
Don't care about it. Could not care less. Care about Greek a lot. I care about the Attic and Koine Greek of Plotinus, Acidianus, and Proclus, Iamblichus.
You got to be careful with the Greek philosophers, quote unquote, too, when you get into the later, Ptolemaic and stuff like that, because then you have these oives that have been brought into their culture and through the kingdom, who then start later times manipulating and rewriting, like I said, and creating more mythos to blur the lines of what was an actual history beforehand. And it's all done very cynically, and there's a lot of names that you'll just think, oh, that's a Greek name, but those people weren't. They were just like every other time they were crypto, and they were influence, and people who pick up on them, and this guy, it's like, wow, that's interesting that they would be so interested in a quote unquote false Semitic or a Jewish history. Gee, I wonder what those people actually were and who they actually were.
They don't care about that stuff. That's a bunch of religious belief systems, and it was created whole cloth. It's basically a Roman creation. Emperor Constantine was not converted, okay? He created this.
So I'm going to say this. It was probably present, but it was present in the form of the same way the early Christians, because they're, even though they're not really, they never called themselves Sethians. There was a Sethians, even though they never called themselves Valentinians. There was a Valentinus that was, he was accredited with a certain take on certain things. So it wasn't canonized, and it wasn't finalized into the official doctrine of whatever the control mechanism of Rome was going to be after that. Sure. But it's not like these thoughts and ideas weren't floating around. They would love to have you believe that too, because then you don't even look to see if they've cut anything out. And what's funny is everybody's assuming and expecting that there was some like divine presence that made sure that all of those people who were sitting around debating what was evil and what was good, like, well, if it's the history, right? Don't erase people's, crimes, because that doesn't help you understand who you're actually listening to for your information. They think that some divine thing happened where the Council of Nicaea, which were ways that they were going to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help them demiurge, right? I don't see how that could even be considered plausible that would happen. Everybody's going to have their own biases, their own, I don't know, people are going to see what they want to see in things, number one. Number two, we are assuming that they can actually read these texts, and they're not just going to fill in the blanks or augment things into a way that conforms better to their thought process, and then a bunch of them agreeing to that around a round table. How has that then become King James Version is the word of God? God doesn't talk, man. Sorry. Talks through you. You get the presence, you get the understanding. And that's why he's not going to intervene either. It's like, dude, I sent you. There's billions of you on that planet. You can't handle this? What else am I supposed to do? You're all capable. You all know me because you communicate with me. You understand the benevolent creator. You have empathy, compassion, love for your fellow man, and you take care of your family. You have everything that you need. Why do I need to do anything else? That would be more logical to me as a religion than, oh yeah, everybody else is shit before and after this one guy. Everybody before him, all shit. God makes mistakes. The universe makes crap that it doesn't need. There is no law of conservation of the universe. None of that. No. And after him, all crap. So basically, God created this entire world for one guy, and it's like, that's when I come down and pretend I'm that guy, or whatever. Or it's my son. Well, if we're all the creations of that, aren't we all considered his children? All of us, I mean, as in us. I don't think these other creatures that look like people are from the same source, to be quite honest. And that's probably why they're our nemesis, whether we want them to be or not. Because honestly, if they didn't force us to have to think about them all the time because of what they're doing to us and how they're doing it and how they're revving it up and becoming more and more of a threat and danger to us every single day, I wouldn't care about thinking about them whatsoever. They are hijacking our thoughts. They're making us think about this stuff, and then they are condemning you for thinking ill of it. Well, stop making me think about it at all. I'd rather just carry on my life. Think about other things. I got other issues. There's normal life that happens in between all of these threats of theirs. Normal life where you could actually spend more of your energy solving problems and getting ahead if it wasn't for having to deal with all of this avalanche of shit that's restricting your ability to just live. That you then have to go and say, what the hell is happening and who's doing this? Because this doesn't seem productive. It seems malicious with an intent to destroy us on purpose. There's nobody that could be that stupid in government to do these things unless it was on purpose. There's nobody who would just, hand over the keys to the castle to a bunch of child killers if it wasn't done on purpose. And it's just so many of these things. Why would they be building a grid and a surveillance system to watch us and stop putting their effort into defending us from outside threats? Well, because the only outside threat is the same threat that's inside. It's them. So they don't have to worry about it. If they're not the cause of a war, wars wouldn't happen. Modern minds aren't unreasonable unless it's influenced by this parasitic demon. People can actually communicate and solve issues unless there's a completely unreasonable thing whose only objective is misery and death. Then you can't work with that. And if they influence and empower and fund and arm people, then there's going to be conflict. So they have control over whether or not there's a threat. So for them to focus in on us, well, then that means we're the target. It would be nice not to have to think about that, but we don't think about that to our own detriment. So this is where we're at. Wouldn't it be fun to have me just do workout fitness videos and things I enjoy, go on trips, show you vacation spots and camping grounds and how to build fires and, be around Rebecca and my daughter and just, do like a family vlog of our adventures through life? Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah, it really would for me. I'm sure other people would appreciate it. But we're here. We're here right now dealing with this. And the biggest tool of control and manipulation that impairs the capable from doing anything about it is this religion aspect. And they have you focused away so much at the threats to Christianity and the threats to Islam and the threats to Judaism. And everybody's threatening each other that you're always worried about who's going to hurt you and who's going to be the aggressor. You don't ask yourself, who's controlling all of that? And what the hell are they doing? Why are all of them in agreement to this eschatological extremism, this acceleration to the end days? How crazy are all these people? And is it just for us so that they have an excuse to wipe people out and people will just go along with it because they think that this is some sort of divine punishment or divine interaction that's coming because of what they've embedded into our brains for so long? Well, that's dangerous because all of that would be artificial and nobody's coming to save you. Let's just take this out to the end. No one's coming to save you. The very things that you trust in all institutions are the ones trying to exterminate you. And there are no protections and there are no defenses and there's no pushback on the official level for any of this to not happen. There's nobody pushing back. Your military is owned by them. Your political system that you think exists is actually a boards of low-level directors in a corporation, whether you're talking about municipal, state, or federal. All the things that are pretending to do a thing are all controlled by the same entity, the same evil that wants us gone. And now they have the tech to do it. So it's time to start thinking about this. And then the times where people's existence, the existential threat is highest, is when they fall over themselves to erase their minds and their skepticism of religion and fucking grab on it harder. Because they're afraid, because they don't know what to do. And this is the same reason why people go back to their MDs, even though they'll nod their head through me and Dr. Glidden's talks, and they'll agree with all the other things that we discuss. But when push comes to shove and they're scared, they go right back to those MDs and they hope for some sort of pity, some sort of mercy, because they still, at the end of the day, default to believing that they have the answers. and that they're the ones who are the spokesman or the mouthpiece for something greater than them that they can't comprehend, whether it's the science of medical, the science of health, or if it's the afterlife and spirituality, which, by the way, no religion is pro spirituality because that's empowering and that's individualistic, meaning it's the path that each person needs to take to grow their own themselves into a state of wisdom and understanding through experience. They don't want that. They want followers, not individuals.
Religion. You're following. All these people are following a fantasy. I'm not interested in converting anybody. I don't care what people believe, but you're not going to suck me into this.
Yeah, belief. What about what you know? And this is where gnosis comes, right? And this is also where this deviation from understanding and taking the responsibility, because this is the other part. People don't want to believe that it's their responsibility, it's their duty to make things better. They would prefer to think that that's heretical and that it's blasphemous to think so. That it's blasphemous to just listen to the words of allegedly that guy who said, "Greater things than I shall you do. The kingdom is within." Hey, dude, remember who you are, because I am simply what they call a plot device written by people to remind you that the inner power comes from you. And then people jumped on that, steered it away from self-empowerment, or which would then be a collective, tribal community, nationalistic awakening of who we are and strengthening empowerment. Because those who are we would find each other, those of substance and character and quality, and we would be a threat. So you have to beat it into people's heads that there can be only one, and by the way, we killed them. That's them on the side, right? And look what happens when you claim that. First of all, look what happens when you claim that you're the son of the divine. Look at what we do to you. And by the way, if you don't remember, we're going to make your symbol for your religion the worst day of that guy's life. Not something when he's doing something good or happy. Not on his best day. No, on the day that we're enshrining is when he's half dead or dead on a cross. Just to remind everybody that as a Christian, you're in the sacrificial class of the Saturn cult, and the Jews are your sacrificers. Who goes out to fight the wars? Don't Jews get exemptions? But it's their war, it's their conflict. Who goes out to fight it? Non-Jews, Christians. Who is more prone to getting any of these poisons during all these scam pretendemics? Who's the sacrificial class? And by the way, though, the other part is there can be only one. And if you would even suggest that you're enlightened or that you have answers for people, you better shake those out of your head and you better fall to your knees and beg for forgiveness. Nobody can grow that way. If there was truly an enlightened person, the last thing he would want you to do is get that wrong and say, "No, you don't get it. Get off your knees." This is the exact opposite of what I was trying to say. You're groveling. Don't do that. Know who you are. And know what they are. And they are not worthy of you subjugating yourself like this and making yourself look like a fool. There's work to be done. I was just the beginning. The rest is up to you.
crazy belief system of nonsense created as a state religion by Constantine to, by his own words, unite the people so they stop, conflicting against each other. My God's better than your God. No, my God's better than your God. Don't care about any of that garbage. Could not care less. So Greek is the original. Hillman is right. All these people carping online, they have no facts, no logic. They have nothing to say against him. Neither do they have anything to say against me. Every so-called Buddhist, you can find this in Encyclopedia Britannica. You can find it on Harvard's website. They all say the same thing. And I'm the #1 expert in the whole world. A million miles above, I know you think that's egotistical, a million miles above everybody else in what the term anatta is, what it isn't, its context, all 576 occurrences. You'll actually read anywhere online, type in anatta or anatman. It's the same word, Pali versus Sanskrit, same term. Anatta is the original doctrine of Buddhism, which says that there is no soul. In contrast to that Hindu stuff, Hindu refers to a people, not a religion, by the way. That's so silly. Buddhism taught that there was no soul. And I'm, for like nearly 30 years, been debating people, and I have all the facts. I could be half asleep and debate every person that wants to debate that topic into the dirt on what it is, where it occurs. Let's just talk about facts and citations. There is no such occurrence. It's common apophatic via negativa. Neti neti, not this, not that. Rupa nata, Veda nata, Sana nata, Sankara nata, Vinya nata. I know you don't know ancient Pali. Sometimes I dream in ancient Pali. I hardly dream anymore at all. But I'm not trying to be egotistical. My point is there's nobody on earth that comes within a million miles of me on what that word means. And it's kind of like Christ's resurrection, that religion. Everything's based upon the resurrection. And all the church fathers say, well, at the resurrection, this religion is hooey, nonsense, balderdash, rubbish. It's undeniable whether you be Christian or not. Without resurrection, it's nothing. But the 3 oldest versions of the New Testament, there ain't no such mention of resurrection anywhere. It's not there. It's not there. Same is true with this Tartamanada. It's kind of like the resurrection principle with an original, i.e. Gautama. By the way, Sakyamuni is not a name. That's ancient Pali for Scythian sage. Muni means sage or guru. Sakya is ancient Pali word for Scythian. By the way, you should actually tell Amon Hillman. By the way, you should also tell Amon Hillman that hair is ignorance grass. He called me a beautiful baldy in his live stream. You should go tell him what I said. I said hair is ignorance grass. Ammonius, if you actually spell it with an omicron, which is how the original was, Sakas, is it actually means a truthsayer. Scythian sage or Sakyamuni was the name. Ammonius Saka was the teacher of Platon.
Doesn't this excite you to know that term meant Scythian sage? Doesn't that confirm and go a very long way for what we've been discussing with the British Edda and the makers of civilization and race and history? And the true identity of the civilization builders? Yeah, I mean, confirmation that we are the bringers of innovation, agriculture, wisdom, enlightenment, all because why? Because we are from that source which gives life to things and gives a better quality of life to others, and then protects and defends and is the guardian of those people. We were always the minority everywhere we went because we weren't from here. We were Norse or wherever that way. But we were accepted and appreciated, and they wanted us to lead because of the great improvements in their life because of our presence there. That's the power of being connected with the benevolent creator. And hey, if those ancestors were venerators of the sun, I don't think that that's such a pagan bad thing either. What better symbol than something that amazing and life-giving to say, yeah, that's kind of like either God or God did that too, and that's pretty awesome. Thanks for the gift. You know? It's very It's like every little bit, every little puzzle piece that you get makes you feel a little bit more like you're remembering who you are, and that we are different. We are different than the thing that wants to destroy life, that wants to invert everything. They are the exact opposite of us in whatever spell or perception of our eyes that we are seeing them to be the same or similar to us. Humanoid in fashion doesn't mean that what's inside of them is the same, if there's anything at all. Maybe they're just the byproduct of not having a tether, of not having anything inside. And I'm saying that kind of, metaphorically. Is the mind in here, or is the mind out there? Is the soul here? Is it the vital force that radiates from within outwardly, giving us our magnetic toroidal field? Because when we pass, that goes away. It's not there anymore. The light falls out of our eyes, and we begin to decay. So there's something there. What powers them might not be the same thing. But we do know one thing. What we try to create, they go and they break it down, erode it, corrupt it, pervert it, destroy it, poison it. Their sole existence on this planet has been the mission to not build something for themselves and live their lives. It's been to follow us around in every civilization that we build and work to undermine and destroy it, subvert it, create insurgents that come out in great numbers to eradicate us. And meanwhile, they're poisoning our minds first, and then our bodies second. And their spirituality leaves us with the perversions that they introduce, with the vices that they are always the monopolists of. There's a real, true war here. Regardless if we're fighting back or not, the war is on.
Linus, his name was Ammoniasaka, but if you actually spell it with an omicron, which is how it actually was, it says Ammon, it means truth-sayer. It means basically the same thing as Sakyamuni. I know you think it's based upon Ammon, but just the original was Omicron. So it's Ammon, which means a sayer or a soothsayer. It's not about the deity Ammon, which is what a lot of people think it means.
And then you Americanize that to Ammon, right? Like that Ammon dude from Bricks and Minifigs. They're like, well, that's a character from the Mormon Bible. I'm like, yeah, but that's not where the name comes from. Like, they used that name because it meant something, and they probably used it in a way to disgrace its origins. Like beautiful meadow or something like that is what artist means. Dr. Artist. There's this place called Mount Hermon. There's Mount, or there's like Artist Summit on Mount Hermon. And that's what it means, like beautiful meadow or something like that.
There's a lot of secrets in ancient Greek and a lot of secrets in ancient Pali. I have a gift on these ancient languages and metaphysics. I've made an enormous amount of discoveries.
Which is what you can do when you don't understand the language. This is why Elie Wiesel had so many, mind-blowing, paradigm-shattering statements, but it wasn't because he was going off on a tangent like some David Wilcock or some other, grifter at a conference. No, it's because he was a philologist and he could read this stuff and he understood when they were reading the wrong, trying to translate things into the wrong language. Like, we still can't decrypt this Egyptian writing. It's like, well, he said, well, it's because it's Sumerian, and although that's a later formation of it, what you're trying to do is not really possible. So this is what it means, and so on. Like, and even Icelandic, trying to translate the ancient or Gothic Britain into in Icelandic or Scandinavian or whatever language was having lots of troubles and issues because they were trying to decode it with the wrong decoder ring.
But I've had the same thing thrown at me about the Termanata and other passages from original Buddhism as Amon has, but he has the facts and I have the facts. You know, you can't sit across the table from me and debate that topic and win. It's impossible. I know all 576 occurrences. I know what it means, you know, how it occurs, the context, go over every passage. It doesn't say what all these things online say. So, well, Encyclopedia Britannica is written by a bunch of experts. You know, there's a bunch of academicians. You know, who peer-reviewed you? I have the facts. Peer review is a bandwagon fallacy. I have the facts. I have the citations.
Who puts out the encyclopedias? And even if they were neutral, independent parties, where are they going to source their information from? For what's available? From what's available. They're not fact checking. They're not decoding any of it. They're taking what's commonly believed and collecting it and presenting it to you in an encyclopedia. They're not going, well, I know it says that says that, but does anybody know this ancient dead language just so that we can make our own interpretation as to what this means? They don't do that. They take at face value what others have said. So how is regurgitating and parroting something that people are expecting to hear because they've heard only that to be somehow legitimized based on simply the retelling? You say it over and over again, and enough people say it from different directions, and they confirm each other. Therefore, it must be true. I'm always been skeptical of that. Heck, I don't even listen to bands if they get popular. Like everybody was like all into Metallica when I was in like middle and high school, and the simple fact that they were that popular, I just was like, nah. Plus, I didn't really like the music, but it's just like, why if everybody, like, I understand the taste and the level of comprehension of a lot of the people that I'm looking at. If they all love this thing or accept it, there's got to be something that might be wrong about it. Because why is it appealing to people who don't really know shit? You know, and I'm not just talking about music. I'm talking about just about anything when it comes to that. Like, if it's this appealing to the masses, that already tells me that there's not a whole lot of substance or truth to it. Because it would, when you understand that there's so many lies that we have built our lives and our perception on, if that wasn't the case, then yeah, maybe popular things would be perfectly fine because people have been telling the truth the whole time. So we also believe the truth already. And therefore, it doesn't come to as a shock when other people reinforce that. But when we live under the false, notion that what we've been told is true and it isn't, then it's harder to appeal to a great number of people with any substance because you would have to be regurgitating that which they expect to hear rather than what the truth is. And we find ourselves in a world full of lies. So the truth will stand out. And even just a little bit of truth sometimes is used to appeal to people, and then they throw back all the crap again that other people are expecting. But that one little nugget of truth will now somehow validate all the other bullshit that they've already believed in. That happens with religion all the time too. Oh, here's this new little piece. People, oh, that's skeptic. I'm skeptical, but it reinforces all this stuff, and then the academics and all that. Well, if it makes our case for us, bravo. And it's like that's what they do. It's like parlor trick after parlor trick. The truth would repulse most people because they already have their own outlook and perspective, and their identity are wrapped around and integrated into what they believe to be true. You can't tell somebody who's vaccinated their own children that shots are bad, because then that's means that they did something bad. So they're going to defend the bad. You can't tell people who've grown up in a religion that there's a manipulation happening that they didn't see. Because the first thing, are you a scholar of this? Like, no, but the source material that has been presented says so. or the history of this, and all their claims have been false. So once they start lying, shouldn't you start looking to see if anything else is a lie, or anything else is a misguiding, mechanism to try to rope you into a certain belief system? And it's like that.
You can't debate it. Let's see you try to do it. You can't do it. It stands on its own, the text as it is. And these people have nothing intelligent to say. They just sit there and carp like the carp fish. That's where they get the word carping from. Just move its mouth. Doesn't say anything. Doesn't contribute anything. Blah, blah, blah. So yes, Hillman is right. The original is Greek. This idea of Aramaic and Hebrew, utter rubbish. Well, Aramaic is the language of Jesus. Well, the oldest New Testament is nearly 400 years post-Jesus, who never existed and was created whole cloth by the First Council of Nicaea. That's a historical fact. Nobody cares about facts. I don't come from a universe where people don't care about facts. Maybe you do, but guess what, girlfriend? I don't. The tattooed baldy, not meaning him, rather me. I'm another tattooed baldy. Tattooed baldy don't live in that universe. Tattooed baldy don't live in that universe. Most people do. It's because most people are sheep. Bah, bah.
So that doesn't help the case. A little bit of understanding. Everybody's been immersed in this, just like they've been immersed in a prison existence, and they don't recognize the prison. Same here with anything that you've been born into. You're not going to start to question the source data that makes up the foundation of how you perceive everything else. It's not going to be easy for people. Some people always rejected it from the very beginning, so therefore they didn't ever have an attachment to it. But those people who have attachments to you can't just be like, bah, because how does that help people? How do you win people over with that to even get them to consider what you're saying? The approach has to be a little bit more kind, is all I'm saying.
It's not funny, but it's true. Peace out, Girl Scout.
All right. So there's that one. I'll play a little bit of this in just a second, but I have to open this up quickly. Is it going to spin? There it goes. Come on. There we go. What is going on? Is it doing that thing where it's not working again? Let's see. Well, hopefully you guys can hear it and see it. Usually if it's going to play, it just automatically starts playing, but it didn't do that this time. Did I take the auto scroll off? Or did it not? No, there it goes. All right, let's get into the stuff here. Peer-reviewed is almost like tween-reviewed. A bunch of shallow, snotty image management, said Edward Snowman. Correct, sir. Thomas E. Dwyer says, Judaism for whites. Judaism copycat. Judaism through the state. Exactly. That's actually, you know what? Maybe I'll just go ahead and save that one. There we go. And you still wonder how the 2% control the world. You are a voluntary slave. You're a prisoner. I would go so far as to call it a prisoner. It's not like we're just loyal, obedient servants or anything like that, being misguided. It's it's not like you could get out of it if you then decide, or you realize, hey, this isn't correct. I opt out. Good luck with that. Burn Before Reading says, it's a never-ending series of rabbit holes because everything we've been told is a lie. Hail Dan. Hail Burn Before Reading. Thank you for the high five from the chest. Thank you. Christopher Lee Stetler says, I'm Stealing your puppy dog, Mr. Dwyer. I just did too. Burn Before Reading says this is stuff that Jeff Doherty, right, was trying to tell us, but got kicked off of FTJ. I don't remember him. Was he a black guy? Is that who you're talking about? I don't remember. I've heard people come and go here a few times, so I'm not really sure. Christopher Lee Settler said, "Serious? Why the boot?" Christopher Lee Settler says, 5 minutes and still have no feed logged in and can comment, yet no Dan. Yeah, try the Rumble then. I'll just check, make sure I'm actually still. Yeah, it looks like, here, I'll just hit play real quick. I have to restart it, I guess. Yeah, it's working there. You got it over there. And I'll get to these in a second too. Judah. It's funny. All right, let me get back over here. He insulted one of the streamers, then got voted off. I've always thought it was pretty shitty the way it went down. I don't know anything about this. After that happened, Dave said they wouldn't have a vote like that again. So now I'm curious, but actually it's like whatever. Knowing some of the people and some of the egos makes me wonder. Makes me wonder what happened there. But anyway. Thomas E. Dwyer said, "Hi, Chris. Take care of that puppy dog." Burn Before Reading says, "I was having a bunch of problems too." Now, I guess because that's not working for me right now at the moment. There's going to be a 2.0 coming, so I'm told. Burn Before Reading says, "I switched over to Firefox and it worked in that browser, but still buffering a lot. So watching on Rumble and using FTJ chat. Cool." Excuse me. And Burn Before Reading says, oh wait, I missed one. Burn Before Reading says, "It seems like there is some evil Nazi narrative or mention in something like 85% of the movies ever made, maybe more. Total brainwashing mechanism, just like dinosaurs, space travel, viruses, allopathic medicine, the Civil War, founding of the U.S., black exceptionalism, etc." And then Burn Before Reading says, "I'm concerned with finding out the truth. It blows my mind how quickly people will run away when they are faced with facts that they don't want to hear or makes them uncomfortable. That's ones they don't expect, right? It's an anticipation thing. If you're anticipating something being said and then when it is said, it reconfirms what you thought you knew about something or were told about something, then people become... they identify with what you're saying because it sounds like what they say. So the worst thing you could do is come online and say things that just are true without regard to that part. The stuff that people know, the last thing they want to do is, feel like they have to throw all of that out, because that's what makes them unique and special, is that they memorize this type of empirical knowledge. You used to say that's all garbage, or you say you've been deceived is a nicer way to put it, or here's this other explanation for that. They're not going to jive with that as much unless they're just open people who didn't really go all in with anything that they've been told throughout their life anyway. So the foundation wasn't as concrete, There was always something fishy about something. You kind of like, okay, for now that's the explanation, but I know there's something wrong about it. I don't know what it is yet, but it just doesn't seem right to me. Those people, they're just waiting to get the catalyst to start looking into stuff, right? Oh, there's something to actually look for? I thought so. Like, those people are on the ready. They're already thinking in the way that they're seeking for something they just want the truth. They just want the facts. There's other people who they grab onto it like a precious, and there's other people who have it just entwined or interwoven into who they are. So to challenge it is like to challenge them, their parents, everything that they've ever been taught. It's a lot for them to give up, and they won't. They'll fight you. Christopher Lee Stettler says, ignorance grass, love it. Halfway there. Got room to grow. Yeah, I got a little, I guess I'm smarter right about here. Instead of a self, and someone says, instead of a self, they have a black hole, so all devouring that not even information can escape. Yes. Sucking in time and space. And Snowman says, so do they have an individual soul? They're basically bred, so any soul or not doesn't matter. And Snowman says, doesn't matter because not even information can escape. Stop being before reading says, stop being a huge Metallica fan once Black Album came out. Yeah, that was like, Unforgiven, Enter Sandman, all that stuff. I don't know. When I was younger, I thought that stuff was like dark and counterproductive. I was looking more for, fight the system, not, things that seemed more like Kill 'Em All and all these other things. And then I don't know. I had the Garage Days revisited on a cassette tape once. Didn't really care about that though. Anyway, that was where Green Death or something like that to cover for that horrible song. I got something to say. I killed your baby today. I'm like, when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, these guys are scumbags. Even though it was a cover for like a Misfits, another scumbag. Burn for Reading says, I really don't like that guy's tats and gauged ears, but what he's talking about is interesting. Yeah, Ken is Ken. He's, it's whatever the book cover is. Ken knows what he's talking about when it comes to magnetism, when it comes to ancient poly, when it comes to whatever else he's done in his life. I mean, I don't think it would look nearly as bad if he picks things up and put them down a little bit. His arms are very, very small compared to his width, and those proportions could look a lot better if he just got a little bit of, you know what I mean? He would look healthier, and then the tattoos wouldn't probably be as, there's all kinds of tattooed people that have, a good physique that, although I think it's weird that they would scar themselves up like that, it's not as noticeable than when you see like bright white skin on an overweight person with all these tattoos that stick out like sore thumbs. And it's like, yeah, that's what my stepmom would say, trash. It was just like, she always said, if you lose a tooth, you're basically, everybody's going to perceive you as trash. Missing teeth just means that you're a low life. From people's perspective, not that it's an indicator of the person. Some shit happens, hockey happens, all kinds of stuff happens, right? But yeah, she's right about the prejudice though, and that's really what she was saying. And don't forget, the three-headed dog is the name of Italy's Secret Service, correct? High five from the chest. I don't know. I do not know. All right. If I missed anybody, if a super chat didn't pop up, or super chat, fucking idiot. If one of these didn't pop up, I can already tell I'm missing something just based on the number. So I don't know why it's not showing. If it was before the show, maybe, but I don't see it. And I want to say thank you to everybody who did something. So whatever, if I missed something or if it's not on my screen, then I apologize. I can only read what's there. Burn Before Reading, Ride the Lightning, Kill 'Em All, Injustice for All, Master of Puppets. Yeah, Master of Puppets was good, but I mean, not Master of Puppets, but Injustice for All. You're right, that one. That one was decent. I didn't really get into Ride the Lightning. It's like I said, I had a friend that was really into Metallica, so I listened to all the crap that he listened to. But I also had a friend that was into ska, and I got myself into like Operation Ivy and Rancid and the Transplants and all that. I liked that. I liked something that was aggressive. You know, you felt amped up, and it was like, you know, fuck all the things that are trying to fuck you type of attitude. I'm like, yeah, that's more my mindset. Screw everything that's trying to screw me. Booby. Taco Bell Pepper Nose said, I'm not sure. At 6 o'clock, is that the correct time? Yes. He said, Taco Bell Pepper Nose said, niggers are scum. And then he said, all niggers are going to hell 1 minute later. And then I guess he left the building. Elvis has left the building. And then there's Booby here, B-U-B-E-Y, like, Booby, you know, Booby. B-E-Y, like, I wasn't sure that we were actually discussing that, but he was, so I guess that's what matters. Oh, that's China in the chat? Come on, doing this shit again. They logged me out. I'm like, why do they do that? All right, then I got a yes. Hold on, I got a captcha now. Or captcha. I always said it the wrong way. Come on. Oh, they're going to send it to... Oh, okay, never mind. I really have to do... I'm not doing that right now. Fuck that. It is what it is. I don't care. I could usually just look at my phone, but my phone is cracked to shit. So I cannot. And I can't move it around. Okay, so let's go back to the Rumble. Rumble had a bunch. I actually watch it on the dark screen here. Saxon Ranger! Hail Ralda indeed. Hail Ralda. What a perfect episode to say that. It's good to see you, Saxon Ranger. You know who Vin Landerson. I haven't seen him in forever. Vin Landerson, I believe, is the person who sent me a book once, and it was really great. And I think he sent me a coin. He sent me some. Yeah, if it was the same person who did both. He sent me a Uncle Painter era coin, which was greatly appreciated. Nagurski says, amusing. My grandfather agrees with Mr. Wheeler. Rubbish. Close to hogwash. Yeah, you guys, if you don't know who Ken is, you should really look into his stuff about magnetism, about Tesla, about holographic universe, and what that actually means, because of volume from a magnetic field giving matter gets volume from its field. So, and that okay. So we have another person saying doing the nigger stack over here on Rumble. And then somebody says Z, then get the fuck out, Z. Nice pincher. Miniature pincher? I don't know what that means. Jesus Bappa. I'm guessing this are all the ones that people deleted. Tell me more. Oh man. Bappa always makes a great first impression. What is the goy slop? You see what I mean? Everybody's a fag when it comes to like talking about religion. So I'm gonna go over here and see what's actually left. I'm guessing somebody was doing some cleanup. Yeah, she says it appears the raiders have left the building. Apparently, they wanted low IQ TikTok content. Oh, somebody raided my stream. Yeah, don't dump your garbage on me. I don't need it. Welcome, raiders, or with his skateboard due to you. Lander says, to be fair, whites are warriors and Semites are just inbred dogs. That's to be fair, apparently. Yeah, they're not really Semites either. They're pieces of shit. They're demons from the freaking demiurge. The revolting villager says Mr. Soros knows he has a list. This motherfucker said, "Be nice, we're guests." That's what you're gonna come into someone else's house and tell them how to fucking operate their. Yes, that is the wrong attitude. 09 Canyon. Oh, I showed up. Kiss my ass. Rub my feet. Fuck you. See you later. Okay, fuck off, asshat. Bye. Said nope. 15 fathead. Das Optic Nerve says he looks like a slight breeze would collapse him. You talking about Ken? Roots Calhoun said, nope. Pin, you were good. A good soldier. R.I.P. Nope. Who the fuck is that? Okay. Why are you coming here to do this? Nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about. If you have a conversation with the, why don't you go onto like a Reddit forum to hail that, or go to some place that hasn't already kicked you off theirs. Rudeness is being a douchebag. It is not, and being a douchebag is not tolerated. Correct. Oh shit, he is a Buddhist. I was joking. Who's a Buddhist? Buddhism was made up and constructed, as he had said, in the 16th century. So what are you talking? You see, the level of comprehension is pathetic here. Wow, this guy is broken. There. A little bit more cleaning up that needed to be done there. Is there that much still? I am from the government and I'm here to help. Exactly. Council of Nicaea, we're private. Well, who do you think the first converts to that were? The lava lamp is making me mad too. Yeah. Okay. Hitler's spirit will rise again. That's again, you're looking for a savior complex. Well, you do something. It's not. It's again. It's just a different name and a different place marker. Yeah. Bear Patrol. Correct. I mean, yeah. Ken's been around for a long ass time, and you can learn quite a lot from him if you can put up with him repeating himself often, like kind of like Asperger's, like in nature. Nationalism is the way. Well, it starts with family, tribe, nation. If people can't get together in the community, there's not going to be any nationalism. First, you have to not be fucked up in your household. Then you have to not be fucked up as a neighborhood to a community. It's people with differences. They don't have to fucking agree with everything, but they have to understand when there's a common threat, and they have to understand when there's things that are common to them all that they would prefer to have in their life and won't settle for anything less than that. If they can come together on that, then they are a force that can affect change. Yeah, right. Highly intelligent. Ass, the poor man's pussy. Ass is good with a little bit of honey. What is this? Then get the fuck out of here, nigger. See ya. Let's see. Lander says, to be fair, whites are warriors and so yeah, we got that part. Okay. Buddhists are extra gay, extremely fucking smooth brained. Yeah, he's not a Buddhist. He's reading fucking text from your ancestors who happen to live in India, and you missed that whole fucking point. Is it just all fucking garbage and retards tonight? Is it just all fuck? Why did that start again? Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Nobody cares about your fucking lack of intellect or your stupid fucking. I don't. Yeah, guys. By the way, if you guys are a bunch of pricks and pissy that I kicked you out, go ahead and show it in the likes and dislikes, because every time you engage, it actually brings more attention to the channel. So go right ahead. It doesn't hurt anything. Fucking fags. All right. Anyway, we have this next. But here, SemperFryLLC.com. This is my site. Until July 2nd, you can get 10% off with the code BDayGirl. My daughter's birthday is coming up, and that is the code. Dr. Glynn's membership. Why didn't it happen today? I had technical difficulties. That's why. Dr. Glynn's membership, Ballbusters for 25% off. We'll be back with Dr. Glynn next week. Code BB5 for Azure Well. In the description, you'll find out what the 4 main elements are to the 90 essential nutrients, with a very strong emphasis on the fulvic humic blend. I'm hoping people are understanding just how important this is. And get them in, because I'm in the process of making a bunch of internet orders and a wholesale order. So while I'm at it and I have all the ingredients and all that stuff going, get them in, and I'll get yours knocked out too at the same time. The Venom's awesome, by the way. I like the Venom a lot. Oh, that's this one right here. Bam. And then the Blueberry Supernova. It's right there. That one. These two last ones here are the two hottest, but they have extract. The hottest without extract is probably the Brand X and the Toba. The Haunted Heat's freaking hot too. It's smoked ghost pepper. All good stuff. All right, let's get into Ammons a little bit. I'm just gonna let it play for a minute because dogs be barking, and I want to see what's going on over there. So I'll be back in a couple 2-3. But it's what the hell? Dude, all right, just get rid of that then. Or do we need that? Do I need the chat? I guess. I don't think so. He's just going to be talking to... I think he puts it up on the screen anyway, so that's not necessary. He's going to be interacting with Ken here. Maybe we'll play a little bit more of Ammon from the beginning when I get back. But I've got to... check some stuff out.
For our audience and their educational purposes only, there we pinned the link to Ken. Everybody, please come. Theory hypothesis, right? He was the only one who had the balls, and he could have taken it. Like a lot of people could have jumped on him and said, "Oh, you must be demon possessed too, right?" Kurt is a seeker. He's a seeker. Tony, is that right? Blow them up, Chewy. I want to read a couple of these. People, I want you to have a chance. I want you to have a chance to respond. Now, is it obvious? Is it obvious, people, that we're not working with sources? I mean, is it silly of me to think that someone like Metzger would come onto a show like Danny's and even be concerned about, whether or not a building that he was talking about actually existed? Is that unreasonable? I very emotionally defend you in the video tomorrow. Oh, thank you. That's awesome, Ken. Oh, God. You just... I'm so lonely. Right? With facts, logic, and wisdom. Look, he's doing it again. He's turning me on. Ken, as soon as you mention facts, I'm taking off my outer garments. You know what I mean? I'm getting ready with facts. What else? Stop. What else was it? Facts and logic and wisdom. Right. People, that logic part, right? Everybody out there has that capacity. I love it. Right? It's like the one thing you can hone in on. It doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are, what you're rational with each other. Look at that. I love it. And Ken has tattoos. People, somebody was talking, he was talking about tattoos in this. Metzger was. Oh, I forgot what that was. Did you see that, people? He said you defile yourself, Ken, with tattoos. That's what he said. Hail the Antichrist. Fuck yeah. You can't be lonely. You're a bald dude, right? With Greek tattoos. Look, Ken, I know you're getting it more than I am, buddy. Right? I understand that, but you got voted number one. So, by the way, people, that's serious, right? And I give Ken the grounds that he needs, right? He's a bull. I want a tattoo, people. Hail tattoos. How many of you have tattoos out there? Do a lot of us, right? Chewy has a tattoo. Right on her head. People, she wasn't fucking around. And he was talking about tattoos on your head, wasn't he? He was talking about face tattoos, right? Okay. I want more messages. People, we're coming up to the concert, and I want to make sure that we're not getting lost in the, in the hullabaloo. I want people to see. Just to close this door, I want people to know. I told Danny I watched the things, the whole interview, and I told Danny, I said, let him know, let Metzger know. If he's willing to say all that shit to my face, come back, man. We don't want Luke. Luke's always proved himself. He has Greek tattooed on his knuckles, right? Love it. That must hurt. Knuckles must hurt. I haven't done any hands yet. Yeah, you got to have some pain tolerance for that. Ow, Chewy. Are people liking the art, by the way, of Chewy? Right? Ken want to come to a concert in Youngstown? Yes, people. Right? When we are there coming up, we don't have an event scheduled for me, a separate, an event beforehand. So I need to get on that in my workshop. I need to figure out how we can all meet somewhere and have the movie experience. It's like the Jesus movie, Ken, but it's reverse. It's like the Antichrist, right? Christo-fascists have taken over the U.S. There's a lot of that, right? Now, people, who thinks I'm gonna get? I have to be. It's plain and simple. Oh God, and it's demon possessed at the same time. The artwork is bulletproof and beyond beautiful. Thank you. That's nice, Marionette. That's nice, Marionette. That's a nice thing to say. Right, Ken is the man. Look, you've got a lot of fans, Ken. Right, Ken is getting more views, right, than Lady Babylon. He's out there cooking it. Right, I told you. It's because his mo. He's just got the mo. It's that screen that you have with the fireplace. That was genius. He's setting the mood and the ambiance. Lady killer. Ken is a lady killer. That's what he is. I want to tattoo Lucifer in Greek. Oh, that would be nice. Yes, you could do phosphorus or heosphoros. And I will show you both of those next time we meet, right? You can find them both. I covered them both in the last episode, the Danny episode, the part 3.
See, there's Ken there.
Satan. You can see both of them. You can use Heosphoros, which is the bringer of dawn, or Phosphoros, bringer of light. Ah, God. Ken and Amen, too hot. We should do a calendar, Ken. Who else could we have? Don't laugh. Right? I'm getting rid of my dad bod, right? Ken, calendar. Who else can we have in our calendar, though? I don't know. Is there maybe Danny? Oh, I wonder if Danny would do a calendar with us. Yeah, the gentleman of what I don't even know. Well, we could get 3 months at each at least, hey, Ken, can you cover 2 months for us? You know what I mean? He has to have 2 poses. Little
Hey, were you aware of Lady Babylon? A lot of this stuff is kind of, he's an eccentric, so sometimes it's a little whacked to to listen to it for an extended period of time. But if you get beyond the theatrics, there's good information there, and he runs like I'll show you in a second here. So he's been dissecting Kurt Metzger's his interview on the Danny Jones, this heap of shit right here. So that might be of interest to some of you guys. That's what he did in the beginning of this episode. I think he's actually currently doing a stream right now too.
tidy whitey underwear with suspenders. That's one. And then a fire hose. Right? I'll do the boots thing with the hat. We're set. Mascaras Rasputin. That's interesting. Wise mind. People always come up with interesting.
All right. I think we got past the. All right, let's see if there's a good recap here. Let's see.
You know what I mean? That's a question in life. Should you do yoga by yourself, or should you just hold on until you can do it with somebody else? Yeah, hold on. Chewy says.
All right, that was it.
Come to this, but universities are now selling their campuses for data centers. George Washington University just sold their 122-acre.
We may have seen that one. I think we did. Let me scroll down here. I think it jumped me up a little high. Yeah, it did. Let's see.
We also have our.
It says UC Davis provides free binders and penis tuck kits so students can affirm their transgender identity without their parents knowing. And somebody sent this to me telling me that they had to get the hell out of California.
Flag wall, which represents flags from various parts of the community. And underneath all of these flags, we have a little description of what it means to be a part of said section.
What it means to be lost in your own imagination and thinking that you are something that you're not.
Of the community. Now, moving into some more fun stuff. Now, my favorite part of the center is the gender affirmation closet. The gender affirmation closet is intended to help students express themselves in the way that they might not be able to back home. So we have all of these clothes which come to students for zero charge. We have bras, we have any clothing that you might need. We also
Yes, let's reinforce the crazy rather than try to get people help.
have our binder request form for our trans masculine students, which is a Google form that they can fill out, and our trans advocate Angel will help them.
Angel, how funny.
To find something that is best for their body type and a way that would make them feel comfortable and also content in their own gender. Now,
if they were content in their own gender, there would be no use for your ridiculously evil services.
that concludes our tour. Thank you all for coming in, and let me just lead you back out to the front. Thank you all for coming. I hope you have a great day.
The devil always comes with a smile. New rule. Every time we get outraged over a judge's ruling, we show their name, face, and ancestry. U.S. judge is no longer ever sufficient. Judge Sorokin, an Eastern European Jew appointed by Obama, has thrown out the H-1B visa fee to try and flood our country with Jeets. Well, the people who are actually paying for those would be his tribe anyway, so they just made it cheaper for them to flood our country with Jeets. There you go. Yoav Gallant admits Israel used Hannibal directive to sacrifice its own citizens on October 7th, then framed Hamas for helicopter, drone, and tank strikes that they conducted.
But why is the destruction then? I'm sorry. Why is the destruction? It looks like more like a
because of our tanks attack.
fight on them.
Yeah, because they were blocked in these houses, and we need to conquer back the whole settlement, and it couldn't be happened without the tanks.
Okay.
So how many were here, and then how many survived? How many did you?
No one survived from this house. From other buildings, we rescued many.
Yeah, rescued. They went ahead and devastated and murdered their own people. And then rescued other people from who? From them?
From this house, 19 people died, among them 8 children.
Of course. So see, it's not any safer for you to be an oy vey in Israel. It's going to be a burnt offering. It's no, if you're not a million or billionaire, they don't have any regard for you at all either. But you're a useful tool for that little demonic system.
But why is the destruction then? I'm sorry.
What is this one? To everyone saying I'm proving his point right is just trying to normalize the hatred of Jewish people. Oh, here we go. That's the only point being proven. If you don't want the job, great, no one cares. But saying you don't want to work for Jews is a statement. If he said he didn't want to work for any other race or religion, it would be the same response. Probably even louder, unless he said he didn't want to work for whites, in which case you guys would have held him on your shoulders and started him at GoFundMe. But for some reason, if a Jew stands up against it, we are lying or we are wrong, and the hate is just doubled down. Ian Carroll's an idiot, but he says you're retarded. If it was any other race, nothing would have happened. People whine online about working for white men all the time. There's an entire genre at Barnes and Noble for it. Nobody cares. It was a statement. Yeah, you know what else was a statement? Working with the co-founder of Palantir to dox a 19-year-old and get your buddies at all the biggest mainstream news publications to run national headlines about him and try to destroy his life. That's a statement. Just look how fun it is to have a Jewish boss. Look how fun we are. Dr. Simon. Oh, here we go. Did it ever cross your mind that people don't like your tribe because of this exact supremacist underhanded behavior? A 19-year-old kid said, no thanks, after bad experiences, and you immediately tried to destroy his life with public shaming, doxing, media hits, and a university investigation. You didn't refute the stereotype, you just confirmed it. Congratulations. Playing the victim after doxing and potentially ruining a young man's life is the most Jewish shit I've seen today. Just today, though. 0 days without Jews trying to ruin someone's life over hurt feelings. Meanwhile, Jews abolish the white race. White children don't deserve innocence. And a bunch of other shit. Angry white men, white shift, whiteness, all the good stuff. It says, Jew hatred is inherent in European DNA. Well, repulsion and rejection of evil would be a better way of stating that. And since you represent all the evil, all the perversions, all the harm to the innocent, you preying upon children doesn't help your cause. It says, this person says, Josh Hammer, he says, I am Jewish, proudly. I advocate every single day of my life for the Jewish people and for the Jewish state of Israel. You are a fucking idiot. And Josh Hammer says, yeah, Jewish hatred is inherent in European DNA. He also says Europe will never change. Jew hatred is inherent in its collective DNA. So, yeah, if you don't like the repulsive, then there's something wrong with you. If you don't like the unconscionable, diabolical, demonic acts that they commit, if you don't like them poisoning everything that you drink and eat and breathe, if you don't like them putting you into a digital prison and impoverishing you and quite likely starving us all to death soon, like they did with the Bolshevik Revolution, then, you know, there's something wrong with you. He says, this fuckhead here, white children don't deserve innocence. Well, how many other people can you threaten the lives of on a constant basis and nothing happens to you? Where's the FBI file out on the guy who says something like this? Well, there isn't one, because that's who runs all the shit. We don't have allies in any place of, you know, perceived power. It's up to us to defend ourselves and survive this bullshit and then thrive after we've conquered it. Kill a straight white man on your way to work tomorrow. This is allowable. This isn't. The straight white middle class man needs to be dethroned. So, people who have families, people who aren't fucked in the head by Jewish propaganda, those people need to die according to the Jews. And it's okay for them to say so. Constantly. Tim Wise says, you white people. There's no discrimination at all whatsoever. It's completely okay, right? You white people are on an endangered list. Who put us on that endangered list, you piece of shit? And unlike some exotic species, you are not worth saving. In 40 years or so, maybe fewer, there won't be any more white people around, and that's a good thing. Tim Wise, how come you're not dangling from a tree somewhere? Noel Ignatieff, whatever. Make no mistake about it, he says. We intend to keep bashing dead white males and the live ones, and the females too, until the social construct known as the white race is destroyed. Well, first of all, with the ethnic Europeans, you hate the Germanic people, you hate ethnic Europeans, and we're the only people that create civilization. So good luck when we're gone. Oh, by the way, other minorities, who do you think pays for your life so that you can sit on your ass and do nothing and collect welfare? Who do you think that comes from? You might have a vested interest in making sure they don't succeed. Not deconstructed, but destroyed, he says. Heidi Barrick says, if you are a member of a hate group, if you are a white supremacist, these are all constructs that Jews made in the first place. The fact that whites will be less than 50% of the population is something to basically be a little freaked out about. These people are projecting, saying, if you're a member of the hate group, we wouldn't pay any attention to people who weren't constantly threatening us and then having the power to carry things out and continuously do carry these things out. They're the ones that are the hate group. By the very definition of it, our defense or our response, our reaction to said aggression and stimuli, if you will, is just natural self-preservation. And then understanding that defense isn't enough, maybe, because they keep coming and coming and coming, that maybe defense isn't enough. Maybe you need to take an active role in stopping those who are constantly conspiring and conjuring up and strategizing against your very existence, and not giving them the positions of power in your world to do that. Arthur Schulzberg says, if white men were not complaining, it would be an indication we weren't succeeding in making the inroads that we are. So that's just kind of going along with what I just said. Complaining that if it isn't noticeable that we're trying to exterminate you, then we're not doing a good job. Barbara Specter. So are we really going to lose to this? Are we really going to lose to this and their deceptions of religion that control most people's minds and make them neutral or useless in any type of act of defense against this thing? Like, are we going to do that? Are we going to allow that to happen? Are we going to let the dredges of the world with no conscience, no sense of right and wrong, indifferent to human suffering, other than the fact that they enjoy it, and the absolute hatred and determination to kill your children? What are we going to do about that? Should little weasels succeed? Should the weakest, most... They're misfits. The only thing that gives them any type of leverage is trickery, deception, being clever. They don't create. They steal. They rob. They impoverish. They starve. They suck the vital life force out from others, destroying civilizations that we build. There will come a time when, if we make it through this one, we should seriously consider not letting them do that the next civilization that we build or rebuild or restore. Ever again. Europe has not yet learned, this is Barbara Specter, has not yet learned how to be multicultural. I think we are going to be part of the throes of that transformation. You think? The sole impetus behind it is them. This is an unnatural, artificial, disgusting thing that only they would bring about. The very people that are responsible for innovation and the betterment of life on this planet, civilized, just and fair civilizations, they want to destroy that which brings good to the world. They're stating this. That is what we represent when they call us white people. The very thing that they feed off, they're envious of the host. She said, Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for Europe to make. And who gets to decide that? Someone with ties to the Rothschild fraudulent fucking scam that's indebted every country on the planet? It's a fraud. Obadiah Yosef. Goyim were born to serve. Goyim were born only to serve us. Only to serve the people of Israel. Why are Gentiles needed? They will work. They will plow. They will reap. We will sit like an effendi and eat. That is why, Gentiles are created. Oh, but by the way, you're going to get your pink slip because now they think all of that can be automated. AI is your human replacement. It's not only going to be the enforcer. How well do you think this new life is going to be? Did it occur to you that it's a little odd that vehicle manufacturers want to constantly monitor your every movement? Could it be because they don't want you to go anywhere? Could it be because they want to drum up some sort of bullshit that will have you losing your freedom. And where will all those people go? What's going to be the end result of where they go after that? What's going to happen to us? Why are we allowing this to be a thing? Why aren't we pushing back on that? The surveillance system is so egregious and so evil. And these are the minds. This behavior, this mentality is behind it. Do you think they're just going to forget what their ultimate goal is to destroy us all? Do you think they're just going to stop? They're corporate, and corporations do not run inefficiently. So there's no need for the human energy anymore. There's no need for the human. Susan Sontag says the white race is the cancer of human history. Its ideologies and inventions eradicate autonomous civilizations, which has upset ecological balance. And this sounds like projection. We're the cancer of human history. I'm pretty sure we're the creators of all civilizations, and more evidence comes to my attention every day. Let's see. It threatens the very existence of life itself. White people do, not the Jews. Projection much? Look at the fucking crazy eyes of that woman. Emily Goldstein says, guess what, white supremacist? Oh, here's where they have they're doing their improv night on the stage. Awfully emotionally charged, having a conversation with the ghost, shadow boxing. Guess what, white supremacist that you manufactured? This is exactly right. Diversity is about getting rid of white people, and that's a good thing. Diversity is about getting rid of white people. Well, now you know what diversity means, according to them. So it's an assault on your existence. Does anyone else have a problem with one group of people enraging all other ethnicities against one other one? How is that not, I don't know, what's the word they like to use, racist? How is that not somehow unlawful? Oh, right, they run the judicial systems. Gotcha. Constant statements of what their intent is for us. And we're still in this situation. Nothing's changed. Diversity is getting rid of white people. That is what she said. This one here, Harold Rosenthal, said, most Jews do not like to admit it, but our God is Lucifer and we are his chosen people. I don't think we saw this one. This is pretty fucked, though. Never mind. Boom. Son of a bitch. This face, this attitude, and this behavior on a police officer, first of all, wrong gender, and just the smugness, the arrogance. And she's doing this in uniform. Nobody has any concept of what's appropriate and what's not. Shouldn't even be in that uniform.
Now, obviously, Officer Vanessa Pineda Robles was annoyed and irritated by that. It was me mocking her, her featuring what her law enforcement standards are like. And she wrote me a private message, which I published because I think it's fair her voice be put out there. It's only fair that as the founder, the representative of Cop Talk Live, I, Dominic Izzo, feature public works that you have done in the community that show the true example of your police standards and expectations. In other words, gum chewing, lip smacking, it wasn't the proper representation of you as a police officer. Hopefully, the public now can make their own assessment from this piece of work that you've done that is a representative of your work.
A veteran is suing the Covina Police Department after reporting a robbery outside his own home. He is the one who ends up in handcuffs. NBC4's Kim Baldonado has more on this story.
It's just a nightmare. It was just, I hope this doesn't happen to anyone else.
That's how Manuel Gutierrez describes what happened to him after he was robbed at gunpoint in his own driveway, and Covina police officer Vanessa Pineda then accused him of hallucinating.
She began treating me as if I was the criminal.
She, questioning my client, had concluded that he was delusional, that he wasn't really robbed, and that he must be having some type of psych issue, especially because he's a veteran.
Covina police issued a statement which says the 911...
That alone is fucked. Now you know what the police's opinion is, and it should have been known already of how they treat veterans, because they've had training and they pose a threat, a potential threat, when they start doing horrific, unconstitutional, freedom-threatening things. They already automatically assume that former military would step up, and that's why they do everything they can to fuck them up. I'll get back over that in a second.
One caller claims...
Oh, and as far as the chat over here, we're quality over quantity. There's other stuff that people can watch if they absolutely can't handle going through the information that we go through. There's no real point or purpose for you to be here just to shit up the chat with your nonsense.
Suspects were breaking into their car. When police arrived, they say Gutierrez was armed with a baseball bat, acting suspiciously, and they found no evidence of a crime. So they did
no
believe
evidence
he was
of a
hallucinating. Gutierrez was handcuffed and taken to a hospital psych ward. Under California Code 5150, law enforcement can place people on a 72-hour hold against their will if they're deemed a danger to themselves or to others. Gutierrez's father says responding police did not bother to investigate his son's robbery.
She told me that while we were wasting our time, there was nobody here.
Timothy Gutierrez Sr. says within an hour, he obtained security camera video from a neighbor, which he claims shows the suspect's car following his son into their driveway. Despite showing the video to police and to hospital staff, it still took 60 hours to get his son released.
I was denied protection, was humiliated, and stripped from my sense of security.
Today, Gutierrez filed a $1 million claim for damages, alleging false imprisonment, emotional, and physical distress. The police department now has 45 days to respond to that claim before a lawsuit is filed.
This is the cunt that did that. So, qualified? What do you think? Qualified to do the job? Well, if you understand that the job is to harass, annoy, and fuck with you, then she's doing a great job enforcing municipal policies, because when something comes up where they actually have to perform for the community, the community member's a nuisance and has to be put in psych ward.
Mainstream media would never cover this because it would give people too much hope. Across the country, cities are covering flock surveillance cameras with garbage bags and other items. In Dayton, Ohio, the city's cameras had been searched more than 7,000 times for immigration enforcement by outside agencies. They then covered all 72 of the flock cameras with trash bags. Mountain View, California cut his contract after an audit found that the ATF, Air Force, and a federal inspector general were accessing the city's data without authorization. Cambridge, Massachusetts canceled after discovering flock had allegedly installed 2 2 cameras the city never even approved. Eugene, Oregon terminated his contract after finding Flock had allegedly reactivated a camera the city had shut off. Evanston, Illinois ended his contract, then Flock allegedly reinstalled the cameras without permission. The city sent a cease and desist and bagged them.
And why did they do that? Because this is a governmental operation. And the government isn't a government, it's corporatocracy. These are going to go up regardless. The data centers or wherever the fuck it really is, because I don't think that's all for data center or anything. Manufacturing facilities, storing human lives before they can have their fun going all hostile on us. I don't know. But the water doesn't add up, but there could be other explanations for that. And I'll play that one in a second
time, and more than 30 cities have canceled their Flock contracts in the last 18 months. Flock has easily built one of the largest surveillance systems in the country. You can use the Conscious app to see.
All right, now he goes into that. No, let's scroll back down here.
So now we're going to go into the old-fashioned dowsing. This is another one. They told you it was woo-woo. Don't go around dowsing. Don't go around finding oil and unlimited water and unlimited resources. This is all woo-woo. You got to stay away. That's what they told you. But it's interesting because Big Electric uses a dowser to find unlimited water. Big Pharma uses a dowser to find unlimited water. And Big Oil uses dowsers to find unlimited oil. So it's funny that they told you to stay away from dowsing, right? You shouldn't be walking around dowsing. But all the biggest companies in the world are using dowsers. Even the US military uses dowsing. They actually teach a class on it. So if it was woo-woo, why would all the richest corporations in the world be dowsing? But you should stay away from it. That's what they would tell you. We're never running out of water. That's a big myth sold to you by the government. There's primary water that's underneath our feet, and it's unlimited water. And dowsers used to go around and find that unlimited water. Lake Elsinore, 1950s, dried up. Okay? Lake Elsinore, 1950s, dried up, and they called out a dowser. And the dowser found the water to fill back up Lake Elsinore. And California knows there's unlimited water underneath our feet. They burned a lot of books, such as New Water for the Thirsty World. They burned that book, and then they pretend like they are running out of water. Meanwhile, they know that they have unlimited water. Somebody just said too in the data centers, yeah, the data centers know there's unlimited water too. Here's the thing. Do you think they would keep building data centers if they knew that the water was going to run out? Honest question. Think about it. Do you think they would keep building? No, they know that it's unlimited. And then they are just trying to steal everybody's water who's around them. But in reality, they know it's unlimited too. And that's the book, New Water for a Thirsty World. It exposed everything of how it's unlimited. And somebody said water is the real gold. Yes, because if you don't have water or food, you don't survive. So now we're going to go into the old-fashioned.
Hey! Vin Anderson popped up. Awesome.
And we are above everybody, always in power, always we are the head of the world.
So this guy says what I've been saying.
The Goyim gets angry, the Jews in control, the Jews in control, they control the money. So who will control the money? You?
Yes.
You
Or the money itself is bullshit in the first place. How about that?
Yourself to the chosen people, you don't see their blessing by God? It's good for you that they run the country and they run the world and they run a country.
Yeah, because we weren't doing fucking amazingly without the embedded belief in false scarcity of all things, where those who have the money can impoverish and make your life miserable. They can outbid so you can't own a home. Look at these these Jews and these wonderful BlackRock, the measures that they've taken to price people out of housing markets so that they'll end up having to rent from them. It's great. Yeah, great. Thanks, Jews. Thanks, Jews.
Enemy. The whole world came to destroy the Jews. All the empires, all of them are gone, and the Jews remain always in power.
Yeah, ask. Has anybody ever asked, well, how'd they do that? Oh, because God came and did that? No, there's no God that does anything for this piece of shit group. Lots of poisoning, lots of manipulation, lots of underhanded schemes and backdoor dealings and shit like that, sure. But there's definitely no divine presence behind them that's helping them destroy nations. No, they poison them. They pervert them. They're doing everything that they're doing here. And like I said, every time that we build something that benefits mankind and empowers us, that's a threat to the demons, the little minions, the little Langoliers. The Adjustment Bureau has to come out and knock us back down into the Stone Age or worse, and then just eradicate whoever's around. And I don't even want to get into what they might do with the children after you're all gone, but
it's unheard of.
If we're unwilling to take heed from these Jewish supremacists, we will be under their thumb in a much more blatant way sooner than later. It's time for Americans to take a stand for America, for us. Fuck these people, fuck these Zionists, and fuck their dream of ruling over us with a push, thumb, boot, whatever you want to call it. It's got to end.
And we are above every.
not sure where it was going right at the end, but yeah. So this person says, Professor John says, from 1971 to 2022, America killed 38 million people. They are the origin of terrorism. No. Jews are. And Jews operate our country and have since the end of the Civil War. Tell the story the right way.
71 to 2021. And it asked what were the consequences of those sanctions. And we murdered 38 million people. 38 million people. The amount of havoc we have wrought on the Middle East.
That's nothing. The Bolsheviks did double that just in Russia.
In recent years, it's just stunning. You ever think about the consequences of the Iraq War? What we do in places like Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, you understand we're using this tremendous economic leverage we have to basically starve people, to make them suffer, to inflict.
Like Jews do, yeah. Why do you guys go after their water desalination and distillation and all that good stuff? What happened to the 500,000 children, I believe it was in Iraq, who didn't have clean water? Are they still around? Was that America that did that, or is it the thing that operates through America? And what exactly is the nature of that thing, Professor?
Great punishment on them so that they'll rise up against their government. You understand that this is what we're doing in Venezuela. This is what we're doing in Iran. We're inflicting massive punishment on these people. Given all that, I find it very difficult to talk about the United States as a noble country. I just don't. 71 to 2021.
All right. Blink.
Listen to this Palantir executive confidently deny their involvement in killing over 100 school children in Iran before admitting he has no idea whether they're involved or not.
But what if your software gave the wrong data that ended up killing over 150 kids in a school? That's the heart of the issue here.
We were not involved. I think to suggest that Palantir bears some responsibility for what happened there is wrong.
When are people going to actually realize that this is another form of the military? It's not. Yeah, CEO, company, corporate, gives them the ability to go above and beyond what they're supposed to be limited to do against the people if they were a government body. But governments themselves are all theatrics ever since the kings of fucking of debt have taken over. They operate every single freaking lever of control, and making corporate entities allows them to give off the perception that they're separate from the government, so the government isn't seen as the tyrannical force that it is. Why is Palantir getting the contracts? Because on our end, they're the CIA. And what's the CIA? Oh, well, go back to the Jew question again. This is just for confusing the public. What they're doing is an all-out, full force, no brakes, terminal velocity, headed straight toward our entire extermination. And they're going to enforce that, enforce the starvation, enforce the lack of having gasoline. They already told us what date they're going to magically run out of that. And it just so happens to be on our 250th anniversary. There's no 250th anniversary of America. We were done already. Already done. 1776 is not the date I would start. Neither would 1774 with Lexington and Concord. I would go off of 1789 would be the official beginning. And what did we make it to? 1865. So technically 1862. There wasn't even 100 years there, let alone 250. So I don't know how they're counting, but yeah, the impression that we still have what we thought we did, or that we grew up and live in the place that we were promised, is the biggest lie. Understand that the wardens and the corrections officers, the orderlies of your asylum, have no rules. The only rules are there to limit your ability to gain foothold and power in their system. Nothing will slow them down if we don't take heed and pull a freaking Albania. We stand in unison.
But just so our viewers are clear, Maven, the system that is embedded in the Department of War in America that they use on the battlefield, they were very open about that at the time. Your system does provide them with targets. And one of those targets might have been that school where those children were killed.
So our software is used to generate a list of targets, but it is not Palantir that makes the decision.
Well, if you're suggesting these lists and you're suggesting them to a cold-blooded, heartless, numb to, and completely indifferent to human suffering, they're not going to look at a target and say, "Oh, that one, we're not going to do that one." They're just going to go down the fucking list, as they did in Gaza, where they were prioritizing young children and brand new infants as whose families they were going to target.
Always a human.
No, but you could have provided them with that target, and that target has then ended up.
So our software is used to generate the targets, but
Right.
it's not Palantir providing the targets.
Are you worried about your company's involvement
Did it just go around in a circle?
in that horrific mistake?
Well, like I said, I am not read into the details, and we need to wait to find out from the American government what happened there. So I don't know, frankly, whether we were or were not involved, and I'm waiting to hear, like everyone, what the results of that investigation are.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, that is a classified matter that therefore only a cleared US citizen would ever have any access to, and I imagine it's also a very closely held matter within the US military.
Listen to this Palantir
Piece of shit. All right, let's see what time we got, because I'm kind of tired. Yeah, 2:48 is plenty. We'll do this again. Schwarzenegger for POTUS 2028. I hope I already deleted that fag. Let's see. We got a freedom watermelon to film. That's funny. What the hell is that? Anyway. All right, so we're going to call it tonight. You know where to go. You know where to go. I'm just, I've got a massive headache, and I've had one since I started, so I'm a little off right now. I just having the headphones on are not helping. So, whew. Anyway, B-Day Girl, 10% off, semperfriLLC.com. And guys, if you're not on the 90 Essentials, you should be. You definitely should be. And you know where to get those too. Same place.